I would recommend is the Jewelers of Las Vegas and my friend Mordecai. Listen, they were #1 jeweler in Vegas back when I lived there, and they're still the #1 jeweler today, winning award after award. It's a local family business, which I love. Great prices on anything you need and absolutely the best service.
All right, we got a big day out here. Yep, the Raiders hired a GM, John Spytek. Seems like a really good guy. Read up a lot about him. We got a guest coming up. So I just pre-recorded TJ Reeves. He's the Buccaneers sideline reporter. So when you catch me in this monologue, I'm going to throw to that interview. That'll be recorded on tape. We got Vinnie Bonsignore at the top of the hour, and that's where we're at. Hope everyone's good today. I'm trying to get the throat going. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm not an opera singer, but I talk more than opera singers sing. And some days, the voice is not perfect. And today is one of them where I got to work into it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Let's go Spytek. Well, I think that, Pete Carroll's already been interviewed. I agree. Todd Monken is a big high-end name that could be available, but there's no news. They've interviewed a number of people so far, which is good. So the people that they interviewed, they could go back and hire. Everyone kind of thinks it could be Pete Carroll first. Let's see what Ian Rappaport and anybody else says before we begin.
Diamond Store is celebrating its second anniversary in Las Vegas with an incredible 30% off the entire store now until valid rings, wedding bands, bracelets, necklaces, and jewelry.
So kind of a busy day today, but not super busy.
From the Diamond Store, with the entire store is 30% off. Golden Knights, Big Diamond Store in Boca Park next to Coney Grill. This is JT from Aldi.
Yes, no Raider. We have a mini monologue where I'll throw to some tape, a good. So that's going to be good. I think you'll like that. And then we'll talk NFL playoffs. All right, let's do this. We all locked in?
Yeah. That's what we're going to get.
Yeah.
Something to change without notice.
Raider Nation has come to sound out and react for over 20 years.
Broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio, your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years. And now, here's JT.
Out of the gate, JT, today on a busy day as I'm live from the broadcast studios of Lotus Broadcasting, and we're streaming live on the YouTube channel, JT the Brick YT, Raider Nation Radio, 920 AM. And wherever you can hear us, we always appreciate you. Thanks for coming in today. John Spytek will be the new GM of the Silver and Black, and that seems really good. Good news today. That is a done deal, and we got good information coming up with him. TJ Reeves, the Buccaneers sideline reporters for all these years, who knows him well, is going to join us coming up here in a little bit in about 10, 15 minutes. Vinnie Bonsignore at the top of the next hour. So we just found out that a big hire was made with the Raiders. The information that I have in front of me, which is really good, sent over from the Raiders. He's more than qualified for this. He seems like he's one of the hottest names that have been out there for a while now. And John Spytek comes in. He played college football with Tom Brady. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 50 with the Denver Broncos, and he's also Super Bowl 55 with Tampa Bay. As the assistant general manager, Spytek worked closely with Buccaneers GM Jason Light regarding the NFL draft, assistant general manager, key free agents, acquisitions, all personnel decisions. He oversees the day-to-day operations of the college and pro scouting department for Tampa Bay. So that knocks out 2 massive boxes that I have been very concerned about. So this is a guy who oversees day-to-day operations, college and pro scouting. That is the focus of my monologue, brought to you by PTs. 5 to 7, midnight to 2, the best happy hour in town, the home of UFC, Golden Knights, Raider games, UNLV basketball with Bobby. They lost last night to Wyoming. Can't lose to Wyoming at home, but we pulled for Kevin. But back to what's happening here. Excited that the Raiders, because if you look at the Raiders starting, stopping with the scouting department, and Champ Kelly's been a name that we really like a lot here for a while. You got Dave Ziegler and his vision before he was let go on what he thought the scouting department should be. Tom Telesco, who's got a background in scouting, right, and did a nice job in the draft. His philosophy. Now you got a guy in here who oversaw the Buccaneers college and pro scouting department, and God knows we need that here. And God knows other guys did a pretty good job with it. I'm not here to tear down other people. If you know me, the people that leave, I don't tear them down. I don't. The people, if Josh McDaniels just became the GM, I got a big job, right, with New England. Big job. And I thought I was going to be talking a little bit about that today, but we got bigger breaking news here. So a GM has got to, you can have a couple of types of GMs that I've known over the years. You can have that GM who's just great overall in the building with the current team, drafting players, but he puts everything into the scouts. A lot of GMs are not digging into and uncovering stones, looking at players in Tulsa and looking at players in Eastern Michigan and studying tape. GMs can't do that. They can't do that all day. They have to put together the roster, the cap. They got to handle the roster that they have. They can't look at high school and college kids. They don't have. This guy seems to be one of those gentlemen who's done that. He's also responsible for administrative free agency preparation and evaluating talent about the NFL, running the Buccaneers. And this guy's had a pretty good record with them since 2016. For fifth most in the NFL during that span, 6 playoff wins that Spytek has been a part of with that team. So you're bringing in someone really connected to Tom Brady, a guy who's got a track record with the Broncos and especially recently with Tampa. And it seems like he is well tested. And if the Raiders didn't hire him, he was gone. It looked like Jacksonville was going to consider them, but they made a bonehead decision staying with Trent Baalke, and other teams were close to hiring him here. So we got a guy that a lot of people around the league speak highly of. And I love the fact, if you look at his career, he started off in Detroit in 2004 as an intern. Eagles 2005, an intern. Then he was a scouting assistant with the Eagles in 2006, then a college pro scout. Then he went to Cleveland in 2010, and he became director of college scouting. Then to Denver in 2013, Southwest area scout. Then the Broncos made him the national scout in 2014, 2015. Then he became the Buccaneers director of player personnel, 2016 to 20. Then the vice president of player personnel. So this was a guy Tampa didn't want out of the building, right? Vice president of player personnel, director of player personnel. And then to keep him in the building, they made him the assistant general manager. And now the Raiders get him as general manager. Bravo looks to be a really solid guy. That's it. I don't know if you say, I don't know how you can have a knock on this guy. This is the type of guy Raiders were looking for. Young, and yeah, they'll find a way. But young guy with a lot of experience, a lot of recent success. So he will come in now and he'll be the GM of the Raiders here. I don't know what the connection is going to be to the head coach. Could it be Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator? Is it Pete Carroll? Is there another name out there that the Raiders are taking a look at? Aaron Glenn agreed to terms today with the Jets. So there's someone else that now, if you look at some of the coaches that are off the board, I told you it was going to be very busy this week. And it turns out that it is. So let's welcome John Spytek, cool name, right? Spytek, to the Raider Nation. Let's wish him well. Like we do everybody when they get a job here. Don't be part of the misery index, right? There's nothing to complain about here. I even got people saying, oh, he's connected to Brady. Oh, I'm sorry he's connected to Brady. There's going to be a lot of people connected to Brady, everyone. Yeah. A lot of people are going to be connected to Tom Brady. All right, that's where we're going now. You get a guy, and now you can move on and make a decision going forward. And obviously his resume is really solid. And again, I'm excited to meet him, see what he's like. Everybody in the building is very excited about a good hire here today. And the connection to coaches and what is going to be his power and decision. Look, we know Tom Brady's got a lot of decision-making power, right? Mark Davis, the other owners who are in, the other gentlemen who are in the room here, they needed to come up this week with someone. They did. So give them credit for that. If you're in the camp of a Raider fan that said, well, they lost Ben Johnson, you could be right on that. If Ben Johnson was their guy, could Spytek have worked with Ben Johnson? Is that the reason Ben Johnson didn't want it? No, Ben Johnson met the media today, and he's thrilled to be Caleb Williams' head coach. Turned out that he had to make that decision, and he went with Caleb Williams. And as I've been reporting on this, and I'm not a reporter, is that Ben Johnson wanted to stay in the division. You know, it's going to take balls to want to coach in this division.
Yeah.
You're going to have to coach against Andy Reid. You're going to have to coach against Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh. And Pete Carroll's the only guy on earth. Well, there's two guys on earth now. And I'm counting China, India, Pakistan, and South America and Africa.
Okay.
There's only two people that I know of who consistently beat those guys a number of times. And that would be Pete Carroll, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl. He wins most of his games. Mike McCarthy beat all of those guys. You walk out on the field with Mike McCarthy, and I'm not saying that's happening, but do you want an experienced coach, or now that you have John Spytek, do you want to go younger? Do you want to jump in there and go younger and maybe go get a younger developing coach? And I don't know if you do that after losing Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson was the guy that you would go out there and swing for and say, well, that's a young guy, and let's try to pair him up. According to Sean Reed and Vic Tafer, and I know this is accurate too, the Raiders have either interviewed or requested to interview several candidates aside from Pete Carroll. The list includes former Jets head coach Robert Saleh, former Washington Commanders head coach Ron Rivera, Kansas City Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, Detroit Lions Aaron Glenn, he's gone, and Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken, who is a name that is heating up in all the coaching ranks, and I think would be a great addition too. I mean, Todd Monken's one of those guys now. I think the world of Pete Carroll, you know, for our John Gruden fans who are out there, come on John Gruden. You're already going to hear me call him a 10 out of 10. So I'm kind of looking around here just like everybody else in Raider Nation. I'm not critical of any of our insiders who come on this show for not getting it right by the minute, not getting it right by the day. It's very difficult to get in this business and predict. There's a lot of sources out there. It seems like the two best sources are Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. They normally get it leaked to them first. And everybody else is waiting to kind of find out what's going to happen here. So that's where we're at today. And we have the opportunity to take phone calls on a new GM. That doesn't happen every day. There's 365 days a year. Every 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years, you get an opportunity to talk about a GM getting hired. So today's your bonus day. 702-365-9200. If you know anything about John Spytek that maybe I don't have here in his bio that you like, you want to let me know about it, let us know. If there's anything else you want to hit on, we'll do that. So, reports are, well, Bobby giving me news that Balky is out in Jacksonville. That is breaking news for a number of reasons. So I love live radio. Some other shows can't do live radio. They have to go to commercial, or they have to wait for the writers to go in the back room and write a new script. That is not the case on this show. The news here, the Jaguars owner, Shad Khan, following several discussions with Trent Baalke this week, we both arrived at the conclusion that it's in our mutual best interest to separate effective immediately. Trent Baalke is out as Jaguars GM. Wow. That's big because they have a coach. Now they have a coach, but the coach wouldn't take the job with Baalke being there. So then you can speculate on who you want to speculate on. Mike McCarthy, Pete Carroll potentially to the Jaguars. Pete Carroll was not going to the Jaguars to work for Trent Baalke. I can promise you there. So that's breaking news, which is very interesting to me because this is what's going to happen now. And Adam Schefter just tweeted on John Spytek as general manager a few moments ago, and I'm just seeing this right now. So Adam Schefter, Spytek, Raiders, 5th GM, including interim since the team located from Oakland in 2020 following Mike Mayock, Dave Ziegler, Champ Kelly, and Tom Telesco. Among Spytek's first assignments will be hiring a new coach. The Raiders have already interviewed, and I gave you the list of those they've interviewed already. Raiders owner Mark Davis has said in the past he was not comfortable in pairing a first-time GM with a first-year coach, according to Adam Schefter. All right, so a little fluidity today as we open up the show. What do all you guys think about it? We'll get to that after TJ Reeves is kind enough to join us. The Buccaneers sideline guy, my boxing guy. God, we go back a long way, and he's kind enough to join us on short notice. TJ, thanks a lot for coming on. What can you tell us about John Spytek?
Here in Tampa Bay first, and I don't think these things are unrelated, JT. The first thing is the Buccaneers are keeping offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. Cohen had been interviewing with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and now with what we're talking about, that John Spytek is apparently, from every indication, it's not officially announced, he's going to be the Raiders GM. And oh, by the way, you have a head coach opening. I don't think it's too hard to connect the dots. I don't need a map and a flashlight to connect the dots. That was going to be a possible destination for Liam Cohen to come with Spytek, potentially, to be the coach of the Raiders. But the end result here is this is a guy that has been groomed, has been cutting his teeth as the Buccaneers assistant GM for the last couple of years. Huge scouting background, which we can get into, and a big-time connection with guess who? Tom Brady, from when Brady played here. And even going back, JT, to Tom Brady and Spytek being teammates on the Michigan Wolverines in 1998 and 1999. How about that for a connection that goes back over 25 years?
Yeah, this looks like a long-time connection with Tom Brady. And, you know, Tom Brady's role as not only a minority owner, but a man with a voice. And what I like about John Spytek, not getting to know him yet, is I like the bridge of what he's been doing in the most recent Buccaneers Super Bowl, which you were on the sidelines for, and his role with that, along with the tree of executives there, because we know the Buccaneers won a Super Bowl with former Raider head coach John Gruden. The most latest one really feels like where he grew up within the organization as a talent evaluator. Is that fair?
Right, and Jason Light, the GM, found him, as the head of scouting with the Denver Broncos, and brought him in as the head of scouting with the Buccaneers back now about 7 years ago. And then he has now evolved and moved up, promoted to assistant general manager, head of player personnel and assistant general manager. So this guy's got chops across the board on college scouting, evaluating pro personnel and free agency. And the Buccaneers have repeatedly scored in the drafts with mid-round draft picks, and that's no coincidence with what Spytek has brought to the front office with Jason Light. So this is, I could not be happier for he and his family. This is a situation where the last 2 or 3 years, he's probably been close several times. He interviewed in Tennessee. We honestly thought he would get potentially the Tennessee Titans GM job. That did not happen, and I think we now have a better understanding of why that maybe did not happen and why this happened, because when TB12 is involved and you have that kind of history with him and a chance to come do this in Las Vegas and be part of that, that's tough to pass up. And that bond is obviously still strong.
TJ Reeves is our guest. So tell me more about the culture with the Bucs and that Super Bowl team and how they built it. And you mentioned the draft and Spytek's ability, going through the scouting department and all the type of players that they brought in. You won the race to get Baker Mayfield. I wanted him here. You ended up getting Baker Mayfield. And, just overall how the Buccaneers have built stability and what they've been able to do from a football operation side that Raider Nation could look forward to. Okay.
So the biggest thing, and I think Tom Brady realized this, is the culture starts with the individuals. And when Tom Brady wanted to come here and he saw individuals like Levante David, like Mike Evans, who are fantastic people, not just great football players. That kind of set the tone, the culture. And then you left tackle, phenomenal guy, community guy, off the field, brought in for this football team. Chris Godwin, who was already here, the outstanding receiver, had another devastating injury this year, but he was a big key to that Super Bowl win. He was a big key to the resurgence the last couple of years of the Buccaneer offense. Great guy in the community. So Brady understood and sensed that the ready-to-win culture, not just on the field but off the field, is an important thing. And John Spytek helped build that with Jason Light for this team. go get guys that are great individuals, that are family people, that are community people, in addition to being great football players, and you're going to attract other free agents and other people want to come play in a culture like that, and that's what they're trying to build, obviously, in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me because you see what the Raiders have been trying to do here, and it's all about the quarterback. And I remind people we have Aiden O'Connell, and that's not Tom Brady, but Aiden O'Connell was a fourth-round pick, and he's played a lot already. It's probably clear to you on all your platforms, and obviously John Spytek, that the Raiders need to get a quarterback, either a rookie, high top quarterback by maybe trading up. They have the 6th pick overall, or a veteran quarterback. And a lot of fans wanted me to ask you about John Spytek's ability with Baker Mayfield to go get a veteran who was down. Some people thought he was on a point of his career that there wasn't much upside, and it was exactly the opposite. Could that be something to look into here out in Vegas?
Well, it's a great parallel because they needed each other. When Brady retired, the Buccaneers needed a solution, and they needed a solution that wasn't going to cost them, you know this, JT, $25, $30, $35 million a year, because they didn't have it under the salary cap. So they got Baker Mayfield on a minimum wage bargain for quarterbacks, $4 million guaranteed, with the incentives. He made like $6 or $7 million last year, 2023. That's a ridiculous bargain for how well he paid. Again, I'm propping him up. John Spytek was part of that, along with Jason Light's front office, their cap guy, Mike Greenberg, not the TV Mike Greenberg, but the Mike Greenberg who's been interviewing with several different teams for the GM job himself. They were able to fit Baker in, and it was a perfect match on a quarterback who wanted to prove it. You're absolutely right. He was probably on his last chance, literally, to prove I can be an every starter in the NFL for now. Other than that, he's going to have to go be a perennial backup or go somewhere to another league to try to demonstrate what he could do. And man, did he prove it last year. So the Raiders might be looking similarly, wherever it is here in free agency, for a veteran, which they can buy low on, pay inexpensively on, have that person compete maybe with a first-round pick. It's not a great quarterback class this year. And maybe that's the solution, JT, and the blueprint is what Baker Mayfield did the last couple of years in Tampa Bay.
Wrapping up with TJ Reeves. Yeah, this is really fascinating to me because from time to time you see a team that doesn't go to the Super Bowl, but the Bucs had a really good year, very successful year, and then all of a sudden, executives start getting plucked away. You see this in Detroit with Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn today. They lose their offensive line coach. So you've been around this a long time. When a team has success, all of a sudden they have to watch their back because a couple of executives leave along the way. But I guess big news today because the Buccaneers didn't lose an offensive part of this team, and it shows about the culture there in Tampa Bay and ownership to pay people to stick around.
Yeah, Liam Cohen is that offensive coordinator, first-year offensive coordinator out of the Sean McVay tree. And Cohen was on the verge probably of being offered, if not taking the Jacksonville Jaguar job 3 hours to the north. But, I mean, this is a fantastic situation here.
Yeah.
And with Mayfield and his resurgence and the way that they've worked, and I believe that ultimately here what he was promised is you're going to get the chance whenever it happens to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Otherwise, if you're him, why are you not taking the chance to be a head coach? Money, yes, but I mean, the chance to be a head coach is daunting. So again, I say to you on this Wednesday afternoon, it's been a crazy morning and afternoon. JT, do we have anything left for this evening for the Buccaneers? Between Cohen is not going, he's staying. Spytek is going. Stay tuned on whatever's next at dinner time here in Tampa Bay, JT.
Lastly, walk me through the Bucs' loss in the postseason, because I really think, just like Jaden Daniels, when it comes to Baker Mayfield, now that Jared Goff is out, this thing's kind of wide open here in the NFC. I think the Bucs could have beat, anybody on any given Sunday there, but that was a tough way to go out because I expected the Bucs to go down, and Baker, that fumble was really disappointing because I think that was the first time that happened all year on that type of play there, and they had such a successful, fun season down there in your backyard of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and it was demoralizing to watch that second half. And you know what the Commanders did, Mr. Brick? They beat the Bucs at the Bucs game, which is we're going to wait for you to make the mistake. We're going to make sure that we tidy things up. We're going to get a touchdown when we need a touchdown, and then we're going to kill the clock on the last possession and win the game at the end. That's exactly what the Commanders did. So a disheartening end to what was a great finish, 6-1 finish to make the playoffs, win the division. But now I think a lot of Buccaneer fans, it's not spoiled, and this isn't wrong. You want to take some steps in the playoffs. You want to be where the Commanders are right now with the Eagles, the NFC Championship game. You have to do things in January. You have to win games in January. And this team was not good enough in the second half and in the fourth quarter of that game. And Washington right now is almost playing with house money, JT. You love that phrase on Vegas. They are playing loose. Jaden Daniels at field level is spectacular. He's elusive. He's accurate. It's not everything. This is a big moment on the road at Philly, but he is a special player. There is no doubt. That's one of the reasons why they've excelled, so that's going to be interesting to watch. But, yeah, there's a lot of expectation now in Tampa Bay. Take the next steps. Win playoff games. We shall see. That's for next year.
Fantastic. The fans here in Raider Nation, they know you over the decades and your boxing prowess and everything and your Vegas trips. We needed this. We didn't know much about John Spytek, and we're up to date because of you. Thanks, my friend.
Hey, I am always glad to be on with you. You ring me up anytime. Spytek is phenomenal. You will love getting to know him. Congratulations to him. Our loss is definitely the Raiders' gain. You got a good one, my friend.
Thank you. There he is, everybody. TJ Reeves. Nice to get him on today because he's the guy. You know, he does what I've done for years, and he's been there, and he's been the sideline reporter, and he's fantastic. And you hear from that bold voice, and he said, yeah, let's do this. And he says great things about John Spytek, who's connected to Tom Brady from their days of being teammates at Michigan, but he's had a lot of success along the way. Look, we've seen guys like Dave Ziegler, who was kind of similar, a guy building up through scouting departments and then gets an opportunity to be a first-time GM. All the reports across the board from NFL insiders who know Spytek are saying high-quality things about him. And if there's a connection to Tom Brady, get over it. There's a connection to Tom Brady. That's going to happen more and more and more. There's going to be a lot of connections to Tom Brady because Tom Brady's connected to a lot of people. And if he's comfortable with him, and this helps in the coaching search, which is very fluid now as we go forward, that's the next big shoe to drop. You get the GM in here. Who's the GM most comfortable with? Have they talked to the potential head coaches about the GM to make a fit and put that all together? It is a very busy day at Raiders headquarters. And if there's breaking news, you'll find it here, either throughout the rest of the show here. Vinnie Bonsignore will join us. Vinnie Bonsignore is going to join us coming up here, so we're going to have him. And then we're going to open up the phones. Raider Nation, are you good with that? Now you get a GM today. You got to feel pretty good middle of the week on Wednesday that box is checked. So let's get into that, find out more about it, and try to put the rest of the puzzle together. 702-365-9200, brought to you by Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. Virgin's got a lot going on this weekend. Big convention in town, if you know what I'm talking about. All right, we're back. I'm back to the chat. I like that. Back to the chat. So that was a good interview. I think TJ Reeves talked a lot about John Spytek. And we'll see. You know, it seems like a guy who's got a big resume building for this moment, well-deserved. So we'll welcome him into the Raider Nation and see what happens next. And we have no idea if Pete Carroll is the lead front runner or if it's Todd Monken. I don't know. We don't know. I think highly of the candidates here. Not here. I'm not making predictions. And we'll see what happens. I'm not making a lot of predictions. Early today, watching the stock market. You know, I'm in the stock market watching the new golden age to see how the day was going to look. And was up early and walked the dog and did my usual stuff I like to do. And then this exploded on right before the show hit. So that's where we're at. So you got a little behind the scenes as we build the show. We did a little taped interview at about 11:45, just played that, and now we're live the rest of the way. And if you want to call in, I'd love to take some chat calls.
What do you want coming back now?
Options. Well, I mean, you got a lot of play-by-play from Jason Horowitz for the year. Brock Bowers, I mean, you know. Yeah, I was reading the comments yesterday. A guy says, why should I tune in if you're on your phone the whole time? Well, I'm on my phone because I'm doing a live radio show and we're getting information. So I'm going to look at my phone from time to time. I got to look at breaking news on my phone. and all that. So this is JT Raw. This is our live radio show that we just streamed. So it's a radio show streamed live. I think we've updated it pretty good lately. And then we're going to do some live streams the rest of the week. So we got a really busy week doing 2 shows. And this is one of those weeks I put my head down until the Super Bowl and then come up. We'll find out what we'll do after Super Bowl. Let me remind me to do a Raisin Canes for our friend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'd like you to include that. You don't have the Golden Knights read? Back page, thank you. Golden Knights are not playing well, huh, Bobby?
No, they're not. Rating Nation, what's your name? Hi, what's your name, man?
Hey everyone, it's Joey from Skydivers in Town Square. We definitely live in a different world from 20 years ago. I believe in the old school ways, honor and trust. True value for money.
Yeah, they lost 6 or 7, so
these are
and now they're going on the
I've
road.
been in the diamond business 31 years. I am a GIA graduate gemologist and certified gemologist. We are the diamond experts. We have the largest selection of natural mine diamonds and Labmore diamonds in Las Vegas. We will not be beat on price and quality, period. Come to Sky Diamonds and let us prove it to you.
Hey, Jim.
Hockey fans, watch the
Hey, Jim.
at Nighttime Hockey Bar at Air Resort, featuring a full menu.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim.
Classic brews all on tap.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
So the Raiders got a GM. It's a guy from Tampa, which I think you'll be happy with. He's a young guy, and
I went and
should be.
researched him.
You did, okay.
Played with Brady.
You know this with my wife. My wife, the night I met my wife as a stranger at the Rolling Stones at the Center Bar, she was wearing that exact jacket. That exact jacket, which she still has, to the T. So that's wearing that at the bar by herself because she ripped the ticket stub for John Cougar, put it in the barrel. They took her name out of the barrel, and she won a ticket to the Stones. And she went by herself
I know. I love
and met yours truly wearing a leopard coat, winter coat like you have. So if my wife is watching, you're a leopard girl. So is my wife.
The Friday before Super Bowl, don't forget. I'm just saying out loud so we don't forget.
Well, the Friday before Super Bowl, I'm in New Orleans. That's not a good one.
You can't call us?
I can, but it's Friday morning in New Orleans. I mean, what time are you talking?
Whatever you can make it happen. We're 6 a.m. to 10, so you're 2 hours ahead of us.
I will do that.
You'll be fine, JT. You love me, don't you?
Can we tape it now?
No.
It was batted up in the air at the line. Trayvon Merrick fielded the fly ball at a 12-yard return, and the Raiders set up first and goal.
Turn it up. Raider Nation's excited. John Spytek is the new general manager of the Silver and Black. And for a lot of us, we like Tom Telesco a lot, like Mike Mayock a lot, like Dave Ziegler a bunch. These are all people I worked with over the last 5 years, and I just finished year 27. We want this thing to be right, and whoever's going to get it right, and they all tried just as hard as each other, and we wish them well. So that's what we do here. We are part of the welcoming committee. Okay, we're part of the welcoming committee. I don't think there's going to be any complaints about John Spytek with his resume. Now, Raider fans will complain about the coaching hire because some in Raider Nation, mostly online, wink, wink, will complain because it's part of their DNA recently. You don't have John Madden into Tom Flores. How about that run, by the way? How about that run? John Madden into Tom Flores. Okay, that's a long run of a lot of success. And we're trying to find someone who's not the next Tom Flores or John Madden or John Gruden or whoever the coach is going to be. But they're taking a big swing now. And if Ben Johnson was the top priority, they have to pivot. And I'm fascinated on Ben Johnson and what's happening with him, too, over in Chicago. Raisin Cane's is the official chicken fingers of the Vegas Golden Knights. So you can order a Cane's tailgate and jugs of fresh squeezed lemonade, your favorite game day tradition. And don't call a timeout. Make the right play and score some hot, fresh, hand-battered chicken fingers from Raising Cane's. And what I like to do is go on their app, order ahead of time, or go through the drive-through. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, One Love, our proud partner here on Raider Nation Radio. So, I'm a guy that tell me who I'm going to work with, and I love that part of my life. Tell me who I'm going to work with, and hopefully it's going to be a great thing. And I think for Raider fans trying to figure out what the next piece of the puzzle is going to be, normally, have this package of hiring the GM and the head coach on the same day is very difficult to do. The last time they did that, they did it on the same day with Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. So they've tried that. And other times you have a GM in place like Reggie McKenzie for a number of years, and you're firing a coach and he gets to hire the new coach, and that goes back and forth until that ends. So the timing is not going to be perfect with everything. It's not going to be perfect, but a lot of people, I think, are excited about the fact that there's at least news today, and we want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. Jim in Naples, Florida, where my parents live this time of year. Hello, Jim.
JT, it's cold down here. You better send your parents some winter gear because we're getting a little toasty. We're not used to getting below 50.
Jim, it's funny you say that because the last couple of years I went and visited my folks in January. I told the story, and it's cold in Florida, and it's really cold, and it was raining a little bit. My dad, who's now 86, looked at me on the tee box and said, just don't come anymore in January. And we've agreed that I'm not going to Naples in January because I can't afford to go to Florida when it's cold.
Well, it's usually only a couple weeks, and that's it. But beautiful down here. But let me give you, Spytek, great pick on Spytek, I think. But the real question I have, this is one I honestly want to hear a real reason. I know kind of what we're talking about, but as far as a coach goes, why go for a guy that's the next John Gruden? Why not go for John Gruden? I mean, the guy, for whatever minor transgressions he had, he's the most qualified coach out there. There's nobody that knows football better than this guy. He's got the experience. He's brought multiple teams to the Super Bowl. He's the last, when he coached for the Raiders, he didn't leave because of a bad job. He left because there was a problem, some type of email thing. I mean, does this sanction the guy to a life of never coaching again? I mean, he's mea culpa. He's sat out. They should work it out, settle his lawsuit, hire Gruden. You'll have one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you on that point. I mean, John Gruden, thanks for the call, deserves to be back in the league. And the stuff that he's doing at Barstool now is ingenious of him. I mean, he's everywhere. John Gruden, who I keep in touch with, and, I got hired the same day he did back in 98, and he means everything to me as a friend and someone that I really respect, and especially his wife and Deuce, who's worked for the team for a long time. And, I've been at the forefront of that, and it's complicated, the situation with the emails and him stepping aside. But right now, you want to talk about forgiveness in America. You want to talk about an opportunity for someone who has an amazing track record and personnel and all that. John Gruden should be back. You know where I stay in my lane and my guardrails, and you know where my lane is. Okay, so when there's coaches being considered here, I'm not the pom-pom guy. Never been. And again, for those who misrepresent me and want me to go down a certain road and, hey, JT, who's your number one pick for the coach? Not my lane. Not my lane, because I've been fortunate to interview every coach. So I don't want to go into an interview where the coach's assistant saying, hey, you're interviewing this guy, but he was really going for this guy. Just want to tell you the guy coming in, you can't trust. And if people can't understand that, then I'm dealing with 4-year-olds. If people can understand that, I'm dealing with adults. So you all know, as I'm looking at you, how much I care about John Gruden. Anybody who's had a beer with me knows what I think of John Gruden. But I like working with new people. I like building relationships with people in football. And I trust, as Bobby knows this, he mentioned it the other day, I have more sources and people around the NFL than a lot of these insiders, not Schefter and Rappaport, but some of these newbies who are 23 and they claim to be NFL insiders. I got a Rolodex thick of people that I can call on any topic and get information off the record. But what I try to do this time of year is not be the guy who breaks news on someone dying and someone getting hired. Not my thing. Once I get the information, I'll try to be quick and try to turn it around and get it to you as quickly as I can. But 2 thumbs up for John Gruden, who could be watching now because he's so active now on social media. Joe in Houston on the Raiders mobile app. How great of a surprise is that? Hello, Joe.
Yes, sir, Brick. Hey, been a long fan for a long time Raider fan, 35 years. I was really happy to see Spytek being hired. Disappointing about the other guys that they tried to, but my big thing is you gotta pair the coach with the GM. The last caller about Gruden, I love Gruden. He wouldn't work 3 times. 3rd time is not the charm here. I think Gruden will get his chance, but back to the Raiders. Got to get the coach. And I don't know about the Sanders experiment. Some people say that's a pretty good deal. Maybe it's tough because, we've tried things for the last 3 or 4 iterations. And, I just want it to work out because we've been a long time. It's been kind of a desert out here for,
Yeah, well, look, it's taken too long. Appreciate the call. We all know it's taking too long. We get it. It's taking too long. And everyone I talk to wants to get it right. And that's why what we're trying to do, and I do that more on radio and on this platform than social, of Raider Nation, coming off a season where they lost 10 in a row at one point. And I call it the misery complex. We don't want to be miserable. We want to live our lives. We want to be productive. We want to travel. We want to have beverages together. We want to go to concerts. We want to go to games. We want to be a brotherhood and sisterhood. We want to go to Max Crosby's Commitment to Excellence Award. We want to do things as Raider Nation, but it's been tough sledding. It's been hard, and Raider fans have handled it generally great. And everybody knows you want to win. Everybody should know I want to win. Everybody knows Mark wants to win. And it's just your level of frustration along the way. And it's a hard level of frustration when you're seeing other teams and then you rub salt in our wounds with the Chiefs. I wasn't planning on doing John Spytek today. I was going to do Chiefs Buffalo for an hour and 20 minutes. That's my choice. I'm not waiting around, dude. I got news today. You can see how we pivot. Everybody's watching us on this live stream. We got 400 people in there. It's a good number today. JT the Brick, YT, we're live, man. We're waiting for great things to happen with the Raiders. And some days are going to be better than others. Some days you're going to sit here and go, wow, they got a good GM. Let me hear more about him. So we put TJ Reeves on and Vinnie Bonsignore at the top of the hour. And we want, if it's Pete Carroll and John Spytek, wow, that'd be pretty damn good. I'd be pretty happy with that. Todd Monken is the guy who was called all the plays for Brock at Georgia and for Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. If he's the last man standing, we'll welcome him. If it's a late arrival and someone else that comes in, we'll act accordingly. But this is the offseason. They're playing football games Sunday, everybody. AFC, NFC championship game. This game's going on. We got to get this team up to speed because of the money the Raiders have to spend, an enormous amount of money, and a lot of, I think, capital in the draft. So they got everything. They want to move up and get a quarterback, done deal. You didn't hear me say that last year. People are going, well, how come we didn't get a quarterback? Why didn't we get a quarterback, JT? I'm like, we couldn't get one. They weren't trading. Now, could we have moved up and got Michael Penix? We didn't even think Michael Penix was going to. Yeah, maybe we could have got Michael Penix at 13. Once Brock Bowers got past 5, we got the best player in the draft. We did. Now, you'd say, oh, Bo Nix. Okay, Bo Nix played well. I've seen a lot of rookies play well. You want to crown him? Then you can crown his ass. I'm not crowning Bo Nix's ass. I'm not saying he's going to be the next great Joe Montana. We got Brock Bowers. The guy's unbelievable. He's elite. Is Brock Bowers elite? Yes, he's elite. Is Bo Nix elite? Hell no. He's a good player. Let's see. Drew Brees wasn't elite his rookie year. So we got Brock Bowers. We got Max Crosby, Jacoby Myers, Jackson Powers Johnson. Okay, you got a pretty good defense. Looks like Patrick Graham could get that head coaching job in Jacksonville. I don't know if he will or not, but congratulations to our friend, Patrick Graham, who once told me, man, I've been listening to your show for 10 years on the bridge late at night as I was driving home. I love Patrick Graham. He's done a lot for this organization. He might be a head coach on this cycle. So when it comes to what the Raiders need to do now, they're sitting at number 6. They can easily get to number 2 or 3 to get a quarterback. I think so. They're going to have to give up a lot. They're going to have to give up their first-round pick and then maybe 2 more. But we got a new GM. So what happens if our new GM is kind of like Tom Telesco? I'm not trading up. I might trade back. This guy could be super sharp. This guy's a director of pro football scouting. Okay, we got to count on this guy, John Spytek, to go, no, at number 6. We're staying at number 6. I got the guy. Oh, I got the guy at number 6 who can be like a Brock Bowers type player on defense, maybe. I don't know, or an offensive lineman. I have a couple of people in the chat who said something unique about, if you look at Spytek and Light and what they've done, one of the structures of the Buccaneers organization is build the offensive line. Look at the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady. They build the offensive line. They have good draft picks and players on the offensive line. Maybe this guy, Spytek, comes in and goes, no, I looked at all the film. I looked at all this film. This offensive line, no way. We're blowing this thing up. I need to fix it completely. I don't know. Or maybe he might be telling Mark and Tom Brady, I'm going to get us a quarterback. Let's go to work on a quarterback. So we don't know any of this, but we're trying to figure out what the next piece of the puzzle is at 702-365-9200. Shields Up is in Connecticut on the mobile app.
Hey, Greg, thanks for taking my call. I just got some constructive criticism. Again, I love my franchise, but I have to be truthful at this point. I didn't understand the logic with Mark Davis and maybe Tom Brady of getting rid of Telesco. He gave us 3 starters on the draft and possibly another one in D. Cam Richardson. I just don't understand that. You just rattled off the draft picks that we got. I just don't understand.
Let me stop you and tell you. You know what happened? They were clearing out the coach and the GM to go after a coach who would have liked to not have a GM there when he agreed to terms. If it was Ben Johnson or whoever it's going to be, that's why Tom Telesco did a wonderful job in a lot of categories here. Well, I only got good things to say about Telesco, but it seems like all the reporting from our insiders that they were trying to clear the deck to impress a coach to come in and have more control with his decisive decision on the GM. That's the only way I see it.
And that makes sense. But half of the project would be already in place. And to me, if you have the GM who did an amazing job, and to me, the offensive line needs one more piece, and that's a guard because Meredith can do it. So that's my point. And as far as the coaching, I would like to see a proven winner. McCarthy, the Carroll, and definitely Doug Pearson. So I'm trying to, again, I'm not being negative, my friend. I'm just being truthful with you.
Yeah, you always are. I appreciate the call. I appreciate you being truthful. This is Sports Talk Radio. We just want opinions, respectable opinions about. This is not going to be a perfect scenario, everyone. It has, let alone all the individuals who've lost jobs to clear the way for this now, right? So believe me, along the way, a term that a lot of people use is shrapnel. They use shrapnel. All that, there's shrapnel, and Antonio Pierce got hit, and so did Tom Telesco. Absolutely. Good men who lost their jobs because of a new vision coming online on the way the Raiders would like to improve it. And that's why we always thank the guys who were there before, who tried so hard to get it right with their vision. Doesn't mean their vision was wrong and their plan was wrong at all. It just didn't work out. Big day out there today. John Spytek is the new GM of the Raiders. Vinnie Bonsignore will join us in 15 minutes. He's got good, solid new reporting on what the Raiders can do with the head coach next.
You can stay in touch.
Yeah, Bobby, you got ABN awards.
I'm not going to ABN this year.
You're not?
Nah. I got a girl. She gets offended if I do that.
ESPN Las Vegas, Sports Las Vegas, 12:30 The Game. It's all part of the LV Sports Network and can all be streamed live on the LV Sports Network app. Download it today.
Boyd Gaming is the official and exclusive local casino partner of the Las Vegas Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. Bring your friends. All right, man. A nice day today. No negativity. No one screaming. No one. I hate the GM. Who's the GM? I hate it. None of that today, man. And the sun must have come up on the right side of the bed of a lot of Raider Nation and a lot of our listeners and viewers today, man.
Thousands of families might be exposed to the possibility of forced separation. The time to act is now. This is serious. Protect yourself and your legal rights by getting the representation you deserve. Contact Best.
Some good people in here.
A division of Paul Paddle Law at 702-707-2000.
Hit that like button, please. We're way behind the likes today. We're way behind on the likes.
Your solution, now available to all Nevada residents. Simply sign up for free, show your pharmacist your digital card, and save money. Receive discounts of up to 80% on certain medications. There are no age or income restrictions, and it only takes a minute to enroll. Visit Array RX Card.
All right, Bobby, we got a short segment here. I gave you a Raisin Canes. What else do you need? You need...
I'm good. All I need is a Raisin Canes today. Just go by the list, I guess.
You know what I want to do? I want to do an 872 because I want to get... So I'll do that here and just send me the audio file.
One caller from Buffalo.
Yep.
I went to another session to deal with some other problems, but I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband. He lost weight. More important, cholesterol and blood.
Oh, and I got my buddy CC Sabathia in the Hall of Fame. God, that's a big deal.
And Ichiro.
Ichiro.
Nothing has changed my life more.
You know, Ichiro's first 10 years with the Mariners, I went back and looked at his numbers because I'm a Pete Rose guy. And I'm like, I'm going to compare him to Pete Rose. Holy shit. Ichiro's first 10 years with the Mariners, 200, like the amount of hits he had.
If they counted his Japanese stats,
yeah, we can't count Japanese stats. I know, I'm just saying, because Pete Rose had a great story about that. Pete Rose said, count my minor league hits. And I didn't know Pete. They made Pete sit in the minor leagues for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell a story about CC.
Signature cocktails, and the best tavern food in town. Voted best happy hour in Las Vegas. There's no better place to be than PT's Taverns. See you for 50%.
I'm actually
p.m. to 7 p.m. and 12 a.m. daily. With over 65 locations, there's always a PT's Tavern near you.
I'm actually texting CC right now. I got his phone number.
What is GMTVCC? That's a mouthful. The translation for GMTVCC.com is Give Me the Bin Classic and Collector Cars. It's a brand new buying division.
All righty.
Collector cars. Experienced pro buyers will appraise an offer on your 1970 Hemi Cuda or 1988 Fox Body Mustang or your granddad's old 1985 square body Chevy truck. GMTVCC.com is where you go to get real money for classic and collector cars to get paid now. That's GMTVCC.com. Brought to you by Give Me the Bin.
Just in time for Valentine's Day, the Diamond Store is celebrating its second anniversary in Las Vegas with an incredible 30% off the entire store. Now until Valentine's Day. The Diamond Store carries one of America's largest inventories of engagement rings, wedding bands, bracelets, necklaces, earrings, and unrivaled custom jewelry. Make this Valentine's Day lunch you'll never forget with dazzling diamonds from the Diamond Store, where the entire store is 30% off. Official jeweler of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Diamond Store in Boca Park next to Kona Grill.
Boyd Gaming is the official and exclusive local casino partner of the Las Vegas Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. Bring your friends, have some fun, but always bet on track. Visit their 10 casinos across the valley. Don't let them get out of hand. Please bet responsibly.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by Local 872, your workforce solution.
First 20 on the Raiders 42. Raiders show blitz. They back out of it.
Takes back to throw. Crosby giving chase. He's trying to duck. He's trying to dive. And Crosby the sack. Back at the 46. He dropped him for 14. Nix was trying to do a tango with the Condor. You can't do that.
JT, back with you. Let's welcome John Spytek. He's the new GM of the Silver and Black. We wish he and his family well. And I retweeted something that is kind of personal so you could watch it. It was coming from an insider with the Buccaneers and also someone else, Aditi, who's an insider from CBS. And I saw a video that she tweeted out. She said, John Spytek is a tremendous hire as Raiders GM. He's also a tremendous human. It's been 10 years since he and his wife lost their daughter to complications from CMV and responded by launching the national CMV to try and prevent other families from suffering the same. So obviously he was well thought out within that community for the work that he did. 1 in every 200 children is born with congenital CMV, and that's what he's been doing to help raise money and to see that this is a leading viral preventable cause for birth defects. So possibly something we can help him out here with, right? That would be something cool to reach out to him and ask how we can help in this community with something that he's building up, not only in the Tampa area, but on the national level. Now, the other big thing I want to say before we get back, and I want to get to Murph in a second, but quickly, CC Sabathia is in the Hall of Fame, first ballot, for the pride of Vallejo. I love CC. We go back a long way. I think I know him pretty well, but mostly from meeting him. He invited my family and I into the locker room in Anaheim when my kids were young. I mean, I'm talking my kids were 8 or 9 years old. They're in the locker room in Anaheim, in the locker room. And CC signing baseballs for my kids. I always tell the story. I was in San Diego on the sidelines of a Raider game, and he came up, and someone from the Raiders came up behind me and said, hey, someone wants to say hello. And I turn around, and it's CC with Grady Sizemore. And he looks at Grady Sizemore and goes, this is JT. I've been listening to him since I was in high school. I was like, ooh, okay. CC growing up in Vallejo with the radio on, catching me on KMBR and KMBR 1050. So that's how far we go back. And CC's at multiple Raider games. He's diehard Raider Nation. First ballot Hall of Famer, CC Sabathia. How cool is that? Murph in Buffalo on a big day. What's going on, Murph?
Hey, JT. Just trying to stay warm here in Buffalo. Just made some venison stew, buddy.
Nice.
Yeah, good story there on CC. I actually saw Grady Sizemore play at Buffalo Bison's AAA ball before he went to Cleveland.
Look at you.
Yeah. It's a nice stadium. It's a nice stadium for AAA ball. But, hey, all right, new GM, excited about it. But I got to be honest with you. You mentioned Buffalo and the Chiefs, and I'm here in Western New York.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go Buffalo.
Let's go Buffalo.
Take them out. They're due. Buffalo is due, especially against these Chiefs in the playoffs. I'm a Bills fan right now, JT. I'm in Western New York. All my family's Bills fans. What can I say?
We want them to win. Murph, we want them to win.
Buffalo.
Thank you, Murph. Appreciate the call. We want them to win. Everybody in Raider Nation should be pulling for Buffalo. Buffalo's never won a Super Bowl. The Raiders have won 3. They played in 5. They have the greatest players, the Hall of Famers. The best games are named after the Raiders. We know the history of the Raiders. It's very strong. It'd be nice for Buffalo to have 1 Super Bowl. Is everybody in Raider Nation okay with that? I would hope so. Is everybody okay with Buffalo getting 1 Super Bowl, 1, and knocking off the Chiefs dynasty in a 3-peat? I mean, I don't want to be Captain Obvious. I don't like that type of radio, but every single person in Raider Nation should be at a sports bar on Sunday pulling for the Bills. Every Raider fan in Raider gear, head to toe, should be buying Modelo's and pulling for the Buffalo Bills. Our friends from Buffalo, they are our friends. Mr. Wilson and Mr. Davis had a great friendship, and Mr. Davis helped the Buffalo Bills, and Mr. Wilson helped Mr. Davis in everything that was happening in the beginning of the Raiders. It's a great history. Let's all pull for the Buffalo Bills to knock out Kansas City and stop this insanity, which is Kansas City becoming potentially the greatest team of all time, because they will be the greatest team of all time if they win. No debate. Better than the Lombardi Packers, better than the Landry Cowboys, better than the Gibbs Redskins back in the day, better than the Niners. I truly believe this. Anybody but the Chiefs should be the moniker for the next couple of weeks here. Let's make it happen.
I still got that Brady thing from the
Yeah. All right, we got Vinnie B coming up next.
He's on his phone.
Appreciate you making us a part of your day. So thanks again, Raider Nation, for making this your radio destination for this season.
All right, what a good crowd we have today. Early riser, Jim Kelly and the 90s Bills were a solid team. Bucket of Modelo's, yeah. Mahomes and the refs. We are all Mafia this weekend. I want to see Kansas City and Philly. I'd like to see Philly get beat. I'm not a Philly guy. The Commanders. Magic Johnson, part owner of that team. He's a big Raider guy, man. Not anymore. He's a Commanders guy now.
JT for Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. We have something for everyone to enjoy. Get your tickets now to some great shows. February 14th, come rock out The Theory of a Dead Man's acoustic show with opener Aaron Jones. Tickets are also on sale for legendary frontman of Yes, John Anderson, and the band geeks as they bring Yes epics, classics, and more to the theater. And for the big game, lock in your reservations for the Cassie Bowl. Cassie Beach House will host an unforgettable game day celebration, all at Virgin Hotels Las Vegas.
Labor's Local 872 is opening the roads in our community to provide all of us with a path forward. Safe streets help you get where you need to go quickly.
All right, I'm keeping my head on a swivel for breaking news. A lot of breaking news.
Whether it's night out or game time, Labor's Local 872 will keep building to get you there. Labor's Local 872, forging the path forward in Southern Nevada.
There's a new way to get to the game, M-Ride It. M-Ride is the luxury concierge shuttle service. It's the same bus the players use, so you can ride like a pro. M-Ride will take you round trip from Circle of the Palms to Allegiant Stadium or T-Mobile Arena. No more hassle parking, sitting in traffic, or waiting in long taxi or rideshare lines. M-Ride It, and you'll get in and out quickly. Reserve your ride at mridelb.com. Use promo code.
Yes.
Running a business gets more complicated every year, so you need a trusted advisor in your corner, especially when it comes to your workers' comp program. Pro Group Management has been helping Nevada's self-insured businesses for over 20 years. Whether your business is retail, agriculture, or auto, our team has the expertise to make sure your coverage meets your needs and at a price that fits your budget. Our
All right, Vinny at 5 after, and we'll do that.
We help with safety, compliance, and inspections because that's what you should expect from a trusted business. How to have Pro Group Management work for you? Visit our website at pgnnv.com to receive a free cost savings analysis.
Yes. Got to figure out. So I'm going to the Eagles. We want to get some Eagles music in tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, man. It feels like Thursday. Wow. So I'm going to the Eagles Friday night at Sphere in a suite, which is cool. Buddy got us a hookup. We're in a suite. The best part about the suite is the seats are freaking insane, but you get a little open bar action and a little bit of sushi and some cool stuff in there. Not that I'm a concert snob because I like to stand during shows on the floor. And the good thing, Bobby, in the suite, you can stand in the suite. But the Eagles, I just don't sit down at concerts. I don't sit. Like if I go to the Eagles or Billy Joel or someone, I don't want to sit. And I'm not old. I'm not getting old. I'm getting younger. I do stuff that teenagers don't do. I have a better social life than 20-year-olds. So when I go to a concert, I don't want to sit on my ass. I want to stand. I want to be able to move, see the show. Okay, when I go to the movies, I sit the whole movie. At a concert, I don't want to sit. I want to stand.
One more time.
Broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. He takes it off the middle, and he's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
Open at the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
All right, a spirited show today. JT here in Vegas. John Spytek hired as the GM of the Silver and Black. So the Raiders will make that official coming up here, and we'll hopefully talk to him, and we'll feel what's going to happen there going forward, what his vision will be. Is there going to be a new head coach right behind him? I would hope so. I would hope the coach hiring would happen here pretty quickly. Vinnie Bonsignore will join us in a moment. Earlier today, Tom Brady was on the Colin Cowherd show, which is something I often don't pick out of, but I thought this was good content today as Tom Brady is back preparing for the NFC Championship game. Here's what he said a few hours ago.
Being a rookie too, you got to almost go back to what your roots are as a rookie and remember that when you are a rookie, you're trying to learn as much as you can. And when I was a rookie as a quarterback, I really just kind of engulfed myself in the playbook and listened to a lot of the veterans. And this is how you're going to go about it, Tom. This is how you're going to be the best possible player you can be. And then you realize that many years later, 10 years later, I started to actually perform the way that I thought I was capable of performing. So I wish I could have played football my entire life. But that 23 years was long enough. I got tired of really taking the hits and I wanted to spend, as much time as I could with the kids. So really being involved with the Raiders gives me an opportunity to be involved with football for the rest of my life. And I really love teamwork. I always have. I love seeing other people succeed. I really hope former players get opportunities to be involved with teams. And right now there's a great ownership group. There's other great people involved. I'm one voice. It's so collaborative, but I think this process of learning is so important. So that's kind of where it's at.
So that's interesting sound there. Tom Brady from earlier today on Fox. So if you listen to what he said there, he's part of this Raider organization going forward with his voice. It's John Spytek, who got hired today as the GM, or is getting hired, as they're making it official, played college football with Brady. They go back to college at Michigan. You normally trust the people you went to college with, teammates and all of that. And if everybody can come to grips with Tom Brady's role now as a minority owner with a big voice, then you can come to grips with him hiring his buddy in the process, who's definitely was on the path to be a GM in Spytek, no debate on that. So that was going to happen. And then you could be on board with whoever they decide to be the head coach. As Vinnie Bonsignore has been covering all this for Vegas Nation, our morning show. And with John Spytek, we had on TJ Reeves from Tampa in the first hour. Vinnie, he seems to check every box as a guy who was probably going to get hired as a GM in this cycle or no later than the next cycle. How do you see it?
Yeah, definitely. He's been one of the emerging general manager candidates, not just here with the Raiders, but across the league. It's why he's interviewed with other open. From the very beginning, after the Raiders moved on from Tom Telesco, this was a name that you don't have to connect the dots too far. I mean, obviously, Tom Brady was in Tampa Bay when John was the director of player personnel there during that Super Bowl run that the Buccaneers made. And if you go all the way back to when Tom Brady was in college, one of his college teammates at the University of Michigan was John Spytek. So this is a natural fit, obviously, for Tom Brady. This is his first big move, with his voice and influence growing within the organization, which has been the plan all along. And not only in the dismissals of Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce, the first big move that he makes is to bring in somebody that he's close to in John Spytek. I think kind of speaks to where things are and who has a lot of influence right now in this organization.
Yeah, and the influencers, we just played a Tom Brady bite from earlier today. Vinny, this is interesting because as we're waiting here on the head coach and everybody knows about Tom Brady's influence now, what is your reporting on Ben Johnson and why he ended up going to clarify this to Chicago? I know the answer to this, but our audience might want clarification on how tough of a decision that was for him or wasn't.
Yeah, and you got to give the Raiders credit for making it a tough decision because it was so funny. When the Raiders did move on from Antonio Pierce, and then when they did put the initial request in to talk to Ben Johnson, I had people in the NFL that run their own teams are like, yeah, doubtful that Ben Johnson is going to accept that invitation to sit down and talk with the Raiders. I had one person say there's zero chance that Ben Johnson is going to accept the invitation. And that was the sentiment from the beginning and all along, up until all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'll talk to you guys. Obviously, it was the virtual interview that they were allowed to do at that point. But even that was a small victory for the Raiders. And I think a testament to the influence of Tom Brady and the cachet that he has across the NFL. And it grew from there. And the Raiders did give him
a lot to think about and a lot to ponder as a alternative or a choice in the Chicago Bears, who he was also obviously pretty high on. At the end of the day, I think what happened against the Washington Commanders with a young quarterback like Jaden Daniels leading the way, and we all know that Ben Johnson had that job. He all he had to do was accept the Washington Commanders job this time last year, and he didn't. And I, not that he regrets that or anything like that, but I think that he saw what an opportunity it was to work with a good young quarterback, a great young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And he's got that now with Caleb Williams. So it made a lot of sense. The Chicago Bears always made a lot of sense, much more sense than the Raiders. But as time went on, the Raiders became a viable option for him. And I think that there was a lean toward the Raiders there for a little while. Ultimately, he decided to go with the more established in-place quarterback situation, and that's his right, and there's no hard feelings. I think it caught the Raiders by surprise a little bit, but there's no panic or anything like that, and that basically is what ultimately happened.
Vinnie Bonsignore is our guest. So there was breaking news today on Trent Baalke being out. So just from doing this long, I believe that Shad Khan knows that he has his coach, and the coach wouldn't take the job if Baalke's there. That sounds fair. That the coach, very much like Ben Johnson, who might have wanted the deck chairs cleared in Vegas or probably had to vet what was going on in Chicago. So when it comes to Pete Carroll, and you were one of the first to report on it, and I was right behind you and thinking Pete would be great for this gig here, is there a hold up on Pete Carroll? Will there be other teams now? Because with Shad Khan moving on from Baalke, that just sends up a flare and an alarm to me that they got the guy and the guy's coming, but the rule is Baalke had to be out.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville started receiving that message, pretty loud and clear, and it feels clunky to me. I don't know why. They just didn't make that move from the very beginning when they decided to move on from their head coach and make it a clean sweep, kind of like what the Raiders did, with Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce. And you and I are both covering Tom Telesco, covering Antonio Pierce. These are not easy, obviously, decisions, whether it's for the organization, but even for you get to know these people. It's not an easy thing to have to, see good people losing their jobs, but at the same time, when new leadership is in place, change is sometimes inevitable, and that was the case in Jacksonville. And I do wonder why ownership there didn't see the writing on the wall clearer than ultimately what happened, which was the message was heard loud and clear, and they moved on from Trent Baalke today after Liam Cohen, the highly regarded offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, basically said, look, you know what? I'm going to go back to Tampa Bay and be a high-paid, offensive coordinator for at least one more year rather than take your job. I think that was the nail in the coffin for Trent Baalke and the Jacksonville Jaguars to get spurned like that. And they were like, okay, obviously we got to regroup and rethink things, and it ultimately cost Trent Baalke his job.
Vinnie Bonsignore joins us, so it seems like Cohen would have been a perfect fit with Spytek, you would think, and I can understand how the chess pieces move, where the Bucs are knowing that Spytek is in consideration for the Raiders, and they lock up their guy and pay him more. And look, we've seen that before, but it is kind of rare, Vinny, where coordinators stay and even get a raise instead of taking a head coaching job, but it might have happened here or not. We'll find out in the long run. But if it is, I've been hearing Todd Monken's name a lot from outside the building. So this isn't inside the Raiders building. It's outside, like you have sources. A lot of people are saying don't sleep on Todd Monken for what he's done. Brock Bowers, play caller. You look at everything he's done in the past here, clearly a guy who's going to be a head coach. Period. If not in this cycle, the next one. Reminds me a lot of Brian Daboll. When he was going to be a coach, it was just a matter of what cycle. What could you say about his name? Yeah,
it's interesting because when you're kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit with the Raiders, Ben Johnson was somebody that I think was the apple of a lot of people's eyes. Mm-hmm. You talk about Cohen, you talk about Todd Monken, now these offensive assistant coaches who are in their own right, highly regarded and coveted. But it feels like short of Ben Johnson, things can change. Maybe John Spytek, adds a new vision or a new voice to it, and things can change. But when you look at who the Raiders have brought in, for the most part, it's experienced coaches. It's Ron Rivera. It's Pete Carroll. It's Robert Saleh. It's Steve Spagnuolo, right? These are guys that have done it before and done it for a long time. In Pete Carroll's case, and Ron Rivera's case, I mean, Ron Rivera did go to a Super Bowl with the Carolina Panthers. He, was his hands were tied in Washington. That was just a terrible situation for any coach. We see what that looks like now with new ownership in place in Washington. But it feels like, again, short of Ben Johnson, it feels like the Raiders are leaning toward a more experienced leader, somebody that's been there, done that. And I think that's recognition of the job at hand, of what needs to happen here with the Raiders. And I'm not saying it's going to be a complete rebuild, because I don't believe that it is. However, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And it feels like the Raiders want that more experienced hand, somebody that's done that before. Pete Carroll has built programs, whether you're talking about college or Seattle. And it's funny because people talk about, oh, no good coach is going to want to come here if there's not a good quarterback in place. Well, go look at the quarterbacks that were in place when Carroll showed up at Seattle. He's not afraid of that. No. He's done that and conquered that, and eventually found his quarterback in Russell Wilson. But in the meantime, in the couple of years before Russell Wilson got there, he was, helping one great draft after another to put a great team in place for Russell Wilson and then take over. So that's what it feels like to me. And that's nothing against Liam Cohen or Todd Monken or any of these other young offensive assistant coaches. I just feel like, at least up until now, it's more of the more experienced coaches, what they're looking for.
Absolutely. And your opinion matters, because you got a lot of sources here as we wrap it up. So I know you're going to the Senior Bowl. And when we tell the story, Vinny, as you do on the morning show, about what the Raiders have as their assets going forward. So they got to spend money. And I want to give Tom Telesco credit, because he didn't go out and spend a lot of money last year at the trade deadline. They moved Devontae. Devontae wanted out of here. They get a 3rd-round pick for it. So the new GM, John Spytek, can thank Tom Telesco for some of the money, more money that's available than most first-time ever GMs. Then the Raiders have high draft equity, the ability to trade up or stay where they're at. But I think the money aspect of this is really important, but they got to sign current players, and then what's left over is going to go into free agency. So how are you about to cover that story about what the Raiders are putting together with draft equity and money to go out and attack?
Yeah, and Tampa Bay has been a really good draft and develop team. You dabble a little bit in free agency, but you also build from within, and I think that's been John Spytek's history there with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They do it the right way. That was what Tom Telesco was doing here, and I would contend that the Raiders are in a better place this year now after Tom Telesco was here. I would even say that Dave Ziegler, what he did for a couple of years, really helped push the Raiders forward. I know it doesn't show necessarily with the record, but there was a lot of work that needed to be done, even coming off that 2020 season, which was sort of a mirage in terms of the playoffs. They got fortunate there at the end of the year in 2021, but anybody that you talk to in the NFL would tell you that roster needed a lot of help, and they needed to get better off in terms of the salary cap, in terms of the money and all that. And I think that Dave started that, and Tom picked up where he left off, and now he's handing it to John Spytek, and I believe it's in a pretty decent place. Now they need a quarterback and they need some help, but there's assets there that can enable that and get to that. And if it is Pete Carroll, this is a coach that has shown an eye for talent and an eye for program building. So this doesn't have to be a 10-year project or a 10-year process. It can happen pretty quickly. Obviously, the good decisions need to be made, but I don't believe, and I don't think there's a lot of people that believe that this is you're building it from the ground floor up with the Raiders. I think there are a few more floors up off of from that foundation.
Absolutely. And again, I'm not saying they're the Commanders. The Commanders won 4 games last year. They got there because of Jaden Daniels, but they had a pretty good roster, and I don't think that roster on paper was as good as the Raiders. I don't. Look, the Raiders were decimated with injuries. Number 2 behind Detroit, okay, with players gone from injury or IR. I'm interested on the reporting of how these guys are getting healthy and what's going to happen next year, because if the Raiders can plug and play some of the guys who were out last year and sign them, or keep the guys coming back like Wilkins, who's going to be here, and Kuntz, depending on what happens with him, and we'll see what happens with Epps, but the development of Ja'Cory Bennett, what's going to happen on the offensive line, there is a lot to build on. Vinny, let's thank you, proud partners, for your appearance today. Always appreciate you.
Yep, absolutely. Dos Catas Tequila. If you're here in Las Vegas, Smith's grocery stores, Lee's Liquor, Total Wine. If you're not here in Las Vegas and you want to tap into the hottest tequila brand in Vegas, just go to DosCatasTequila.com. You can make your order online and get it shipped wherever you are. And LendingStore.com, absolutely. If you need $500 to $5,000 in your bank account for whatever the purpose is, go to LendingStore.com, have their experts help you find a lender that can get you that $500 or $5,000 in your bank account as early as tomorrow over at LendingStore.com.
You've been real busy, Vinny. Thanks for the time as always every week. We appreciate you.
Thank you, JT. Have a great show.
You too. That's Vinnie Bonsignore. You catch him here on our morning show with Clay and Vince Sapienza, and you catch him on all of his other platforms. Very good at what he does. And this is not a Vinny thing. This is to everybody. You know, my goal when I started here with Bobby and we became the official station of the Raiders was, let's just make sure we do one thing in regards to guests, build the best insider network. So I reached out to all the people that we've had, and we did that. So we got everybody on the show in like a 2-week grid. So we got the people that I want on the show. Not that I don't want other people on the show, but I want to build that. And Vinny's a big part of that, right, as an insider. All the insiders have different opinions. Vic Tafer, Paul Gutierrez are on the show, right? Vic, we have Tashawn Reed on from time to time. Vinnie Bonsignore, when you look at the guys we have, they all have different opinions. And some of them are more aggressive with their opinions than others. But this time of year, I don't think it's nice to go out to our insiders and people that get paid to be journalists and say, what do you got? What do you got? When? Why? You were wrong. You were right. Stop. It's trivial. It's childish. They're doing their best to get you information so you have something to look at. And it's not going to be perfect. And especially when you're covering a team and you're dealing with Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, who are going to get the information directly that you might not get. We are very happy to have the people that we have on who can help us get you the information. Like today's a banner show. I only had 2 guests, Vinny and TJ Reeves. They were great. 10 out of 10. Now rest of the show is open if you want to get through. 702-365-9200. Tyler in Vegas on 920. Hello, Tyler.
Hey, JT, man. Great show. Okay, so I'm obviously the Spytek hiring I'm pretty happy about. It seems I like the connection with Brady because obviously he wasn't the GM, but like he helped Tom, get the guys because those Tampa teams were pretty stacked when they had Brady. It does suck to lose out on Ben Johnson. I kind of get it though. Like that Chicago situation for him is just perfect. He's got the number 1 quarterback rookie, and 3 good receivers. It's a great spot. It's a great situation for him. So, but as far as the new coach, I wouldn't say no to Pete Carroll because he's really great at building culture, like you've said, and he's just he'll bring if he brings Salah with him, especially that sounds amazing. Maybe Salah's the coach and waiting or whatever, but I really actually want us to get if Spytek can bring Liam Cohen over from Tampa.
He's not. Liam Cohen was signed today by Tampa. He's staying. He's off the radar, so he's out.
Okay. Well, I mean, all right. I kind of don't want McCarthy. I mean,
we don't want to.
I don't want
to. I get it. My friend, I want you to finish the call. People bust my balls for cutting people off. I don't want to go down a list of 10 people you're thinking of. Give me one name that you think could be the coach of the Raiders.
John Gruden.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. That's it. Again, I'm getting we talk balls. We're sports. I get my blank busted by people saying I don't end the calls perfectly. No, it's my job to move the calls forward. This isn't I'm on the couch with JT. I want to talk for 10 minutes about here are my top 10 choices. We're not doing that. You give me one, and we got something to work with. And John Gruden goes on the list. Bobby has a tally board behind us where Bobby has a whiteboard, and he's writing what you callers think should be the coach. Why wouldn't you want John Gruden? If you're a Raider fan and you love John Gruden, nothing wrong with that. I'm cool with you calling in and saying Coach Gruden. But as of now, John Spytek with the minority owners in the room and Mark Davis, I would hope are trying to finalize who the coach is, as in finalize, because it's getting dicey here with Aaron Glenn already going, and I didn't think Aaron Glenn was a good fit. I love Antonio Pierce. I'm good with Aaron Glenn's a former player. Antonio Pierce, former player. Guys who had big cultures, big voices, and all of that. If Pete Carroll's the head coach with John Spytek, I think that'll be a massive victory for the Raider Nation if that's the case. If they have to move on from Pete Carroll, which I hope they don't, I hope that's where they're going, then the next choice will be someone who's heavily vetted out. But they have a huge group that has been now taken down to a small group who are making this decision in Raiders headquarters. And when we find out more about it, we'll let you know. And if I'm not on, Q will, and we'll all figure it out. I want to thank Tommy White from the 872 Laborers. Tommy's a proud partner of this show because the 872 Laborers are constantly building the city on time and on budget. All the projects they have are incredible, and their team is one of the best teammates I have here on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Raider Nation Radio, brought to you by the 872 Laborers, our proud partner on a big day in Raider Nation. All right, man. Thank you. I'm out of here. Great show today, man. Look at what we've built together. The small little YouTube channel that had nobody, had 1, had 5, had 9, had 10. Keep building, keep building, keep building, right? So thank you for everybody today. Please share the stream, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.